On the fourth floor, he decided that he would need creatures that could quickly form a powerful fighting force. Looking back at games, the one that stood out was the Necromancer. He wanted a creature that could instantly summon hundreds of thousands of skeletons and other related mobs to bury those that stood in his way. Though he could easily wipe out anything, considering his broken ability, he liked the image of kingdoms and empires being overrun by the dead. Han was always fond of horror movies, so movies involving zombies were his top choices. Throughout the floor, he created tombstones, mausoleums, dead trees, and other sinister-looking objects to create the feeling of death surrounding those who entered this level. When he and Helania were teleported to the exit, Han began to build his powerful Necromancer. Picturing a slutty-looking woman with pale skin and white hair, he outfitted her in leather and gave her a broadsword and grip. Giving her the name Queen of Death, he went through and outlined her backstory. Like all his creatures, Queen would be completely loyal and devoted to him. The only difference with her Necromancer skill was how she wasn't weak to holy magic. She could in fact use holy magic, which was weird and unexpected. Han pictured what enemies' faces would look when holy magic didn't affect her at all. Laying his hand on her cheek, Han said, "My beautiful queen, you are not only in charge of protecting this floor, but you are also in charge of my armies." Glancing to his side, he quickly created 100 creatures that were formed from shadow and looked like ninjas. Looking back at Queen, he informed her, "These creatures shall be your responsibility, and in addition to myself, will be controlled by you. They are created for the sole purpose of espionage rules. You will lead armies of the dead and swarm over all those who would stand in my way." Not moving away from his hand on her cheek, Queen looked dazed as she said, "For you, I shall commit any acts as long as it pleases my master." As Han and Helania walked up to the next floor, Queen held herself as she thought about the touch given to her by her master. Feeling empowered, Queen began summoning Death Knights, skeleton warriors, and skeleton mages. Though the floor looked easier than the one before, the infinite number of death-related mobs would overwhelm any that entered the level. Reaching the next floor, Han thought it was necessary to have amenities on this level. He created on one side living quarters, hallways, and other items that made it look like an opulent hotel. On the other side, Han created a dining area that would put any Michelin star restaurant to shame. With the wave of his hand, Han created 100 maids that would make sure his stronghold would look immaculate. Another wave of his hand created numerous chefs, sous chefs, waitresses, and other related food industry workers. With his ability, Han easily created a room that would generate all necessary food ingredients. The entire kitchen was filled with fantastic cooking equipment and tools to help the cooks prepare the meals. With each creature on this floor having their job-related skills and abilities, Han didn't need to concern himself with the maintenance of this stronghold and could focus on more interesting tasks. Though he created living beings from his thoughts, Han wondered whether this translated to real food. Sitting down at one of the tables, he motioned one of the waitresses to come over. "Bring me a noodle dish with meat and vegetables in it," he told the waitress. "Yes, my master," she answered, curtsying. Waiting at the table while his food was being prepared, Han wondered what his endgame would be in this world. Was there even an endgame? Could this experience be like one of those multi-massive online role-playing games that continued in perpetuity? The beautiful thing is that he could consider himself to be an administrator and play by his own rules instead of living to the tune of some major corporation. He thought back to all those light novels, manga, and anime that involved an overpowered character, and how often they would have some kind of restrictions placed on them. With his hand, he casually created a beautiful rose that could be considered flawless. Would any of those people who created those various mediums have their main characters be this compelling? Those people were probably too concerned about their consumers and didn't want it to be too boring. The rose in his hand symbolized the infinite possibilities in front of him. Helania, I created this for you, to match your beauty. He raised the rose to let her take it from his hand. Her hand trembled as it brushed against his. My master, I do not deserve such praise. Helania's voice quivered with emotion as she took the rose. After the rose had left his hand, Han didn't acknowledge her anymore as he continued to think about his plans. Footsteps could be heard as the waitress and chef approached him, presenting his meal. The waitress placed the dish in front of him and stepped away, waiting to hear his verdict on the meal. Materializing some chopsticks, he started to eat the Asian-looking cuisine. The dish reminded him of various regional dishes, a hint of Japanese, Korean, and Chinese. Everything seemed to be perfectly cooked and made him want to continue eating more. Within moments, Han was drinking the soup and emptying the bowl. It was delicious, he said to the nervous-looking waitress and chef. We do not deserve your praise, both of them shouted out, bowing nearly 90 degrees. Waving his hand to acknowledge them, he got up and continued towards the stairs that led to the next floor. Considering how many floors he made the structure have, Han decided that this could be the last level. The nice thing about his ability was if he changed his mind, then he could just make modifications to the structure. He couldn't imagine intruders being able to go through the 3 floors he created. Though the structure looked decently sized from the outside, each of the floors were the size of a large city. It felt like something out of a certain Time Lord TV show, where the inside was bigger than the outside. There could be nearly an infinite number of floors, and the outside would still look like a decently sized skyscraper. All his creations had the ability to teleport anywhere within the structure, so he didn't need to worry about some kind of transportation system inside. If he did create a transportation system, it would likely detract from the image he was trying to convey. Arriving on the last floor, Han imagined a long hallway, similar to something in the royal palace. On either side of the hallway were statues of beautiful women, some of them in erotic poses. A series of chandeliers repeated down the center of the ceiling, looking like they were created out of diamonds. The way they glittered took his breath away. Walking down the hallway, he would make some minor changes based purely on his mood. When he decided that he had walked a decent amount of time, Han imagined a hellish-looking French door opening made out of something similar to granite. Each door had the image of a beautiful woman, one of them looking like an angel and the other looking like a devil. Both of them looked like they were in pain, but their facial expression looked like they were experiencing pure ecstasy. Around the neck was a metal collar, the chain running down from the collar to where the door handles were. The sides of the doors were enormous, but slightly smaller than the hallway. He was hoping that it gave a sense of awe if someone were to arrive at this entrance. Behind this door would be a grand throne room that would make any medieval throne room look like a linen closet. The doors opened as he walked towards them and let him see the splendor of it all. If a god were to have a throne room, this is what it would look like. There was a short hallway that led to an opening. On either side of the hallway were fountains with magnificent statues. Listening to the sound of the water made everything feel relaxing. A red carpet led to a raised floor, where an opulent throne sat on top. The throne was made out of a mixture of obsidian and marble that looked like something out of the Roman Empire. Arriving on the throne, Han sat on top of it and made it mold itself to make it comfortable for him to sit on. The feeling would be similar to a gelatinous seat that was formed enough, but let him lean on either side of the armrest. He could probably sit on his throne for days without feeling uncomfortable. In front of him, off to the side of the red carpet, Helania was kneeling with her head bowed. "What do you think of my throne room?" he asked her, curious about her response. "It is a fitting room for such a powerful and benevolent ruler, truly fitting for our Creator who rules us all." She spoke in reverence without lifting up her head. "Come to me," he ordered her. Han watched as she gracefully rose and walked over to him. She looked the embodiment of sensuality. His arm would probably break from him patting himself on the back so hard. As she stood in front of him, he was curious if she would react to sexual stimuli. Placing his hand on either side of her hip, he pulled her closer to him. With how submissive she was, he felt himself becoming aroused. He pictured Beth in his mind and felt anger rise up from deep within. How could she cheat on him like that? Picturing how much she enjoyed fucking Sam made Han want to prove something. Leaning back on his throne, he looked at Helania and commanded, "Remove your clothing." When he woke up from his nap, he noticed Helania looking at him. Her expression looked adorable, the way she was smiling and probably remembering how intense they had sex. Getting off of him, Helania walked over to where she previously was, and went to one knee and lowered her head while she was completely naked. "Master, I was unworthy of the gifts you bestowed upon my lowly body. Please, allow me to continue to serve you faithfully until the end of time," she shouted, her voice overflowing with emotions. The way she was loyal and devoted to him made himself happy. For the first time in his life, he didn't need to worry about those he loved and cherished betraying him. Han was incredibly thankful for gaining this ability. "Rise, my beloved creation," he told her and watched as she rose and showed him a face resembling fanaticism. Often in other religions, the gods would come down to the mortal plane and bed a human woman. Han wondered if he could be compared to those gods, who would lead to the creation of famous demigods. This led him to wonder if she was capable of giving birth, though he shelved this thought for a later time. "Helania, you will summon all of the floor protectors to appear in front of me," he ordered her. "Your will shall be done, Master," she answered. She then opened up her own personal menu and began alerting each of the floor protectors to appear in the throne room. Shortly after, doors to the throne room opened, announcing the arrival of his floor protectors. It seemed like they somehow already ordered themselves, with Queen leading them. Their order seemed to be based on Queen being first, Annapolis being second, Horacia being third, and Minotaur being last. Though he didn't specify which sister was the older, it seemed like the older sister title went to Annapolis. They gracefully approached him and lined up opposite of Helania on the red carpet and knelt in front of him. "My beautiful creations, my floor protectors, I wish to impart my desires onto you," he told them in a commanding tone. "Your desires are our reasons for existing, Master," they answered. Nodding his head at the discipline, he said, "You four were created to protect our magnificent stronghold. Each of you will report to Helania, who shall be in charge of all of you. I shall soon be going out to explore the rest of the world." Hearing that he would be leaving the stronghold, all of them, including Helania, began to object. "Master, please, you must not leave this paradise," Queen implored, her face looking distressed. "Yes, Master, I agree with Queen," Helania spoke up, pleading with him. The rest of the protectors also nodded their heads to signal their agreements. The way they feared for his safety really helped to mend his broken heart. Even his best friends didn't show this much concern for him. "I will bring with me both Helania and Queen. The remainder of you will stay and guard the stronghold. You all have the ability to communicate with me, regardless of where I am. This includes each of you to one another. Before I leave, I will be eating my meal, and while I'm eating, I want each of you to create 10 minions that will work for you. If you need additional time, just let me know. These minions will be restricted to 80% of your power, respectively. At the end of the day, you will lose the ability to create, so I expect you to be completed with this assignment well before then. Since both Helania and Queen will be coming with me, you two will be given additional time once we return. Also, you will have the ability to entirely alter your floors to whatever you desire. You will be able to create new structures or what you feel is necessary. These skills will be permanently given to you unless I decide you do not require them anymore. He then signaled to Helania to dismiss them. They walked out of the throne room and off to complete their tasks. Looking at Helania, he alerted her, "You should also get ready for this journey. Also, let one of the waitresses know to bring me the dish I had a while ago. I found it to be very delicious. I will be in my chambers. Your chambers will be next to mine." He got off his throne and walked to the side of the throne room, where a doorway appeared. Entering into it, the long hallway looked similar to something at the Four Seasons in New York. He imagined a door on the left side wall, picturing the inside to be a luxurious suite. At the end of the hallway was a French door leading to his chambers. He pictured the room to look like the Tidewater penthouse at the Four Seasons Hotel in New York City. The only difference was that he pictured a forest to be outside of the windows instead of New York City. Entering his chambers, he was amazed at how picturesque it looked. Thanks to a friend, he had got to experience staying at this location a few times, which is also where he had met Beth. He was at a bar hanging out with some friends when he saw her with her friends. She saw him looking at him and walked over to say hi, and they started talking about themselves and the types of nerdy stuff they were into. As the bar was getting ready to close, she hinted that she wanted to spend more time with him, so he invited her to his penthouse. When she walked in, Beth was blown away at how amazing everything looked, and she commented on how she felt like a movie star. He remembered them spending the rest of the night going at it like rabbits on a king-size bed. Seeing this room again did bring back some painful memories, but then he remembered how loved he was by his creations, which helped to calm him down. Going to the central area, he sat down on one of the many leather chairs and reclined back. As he was thinking about his past, he heard the sound of knocking and figured that it was the waitress bringing him his meal. Lifting a finger, he made the doors into his chamber open by themselves, allowing her to come in. Listening to footsteps walking into the central area, Hans saw that the waitress was the same one that previously had served him his meal. Since he randomly created all supporting staff, though making sure they were all women, he was pleasantly surprised to see that it was her again. After she had placed the bowl of noodles in front of him, she stepped back to wait until he was finished, so she could collect the bowl. Looking at her, Hans saw that she was very attractive. She wasn't voluptuous, but gave that feeling of being the kind of waitress you would want to flirt with and have a wild night in bed. Her breasts weren't as long as the protectors and Helania, but were of decent size. Her outfit really helped in complementing her figure, letting him see her value. "Have you named yourself yet?" he casually asked her after eating some of the noodles. "No, master. I know that some of the other servants, waitresses, and chefs have given themselves names, but I decided to wait until I found an appropriate time," she answered while bowing her head. Continuing to eat his noodles, Han pondered about how she looked similar to the waitress at his favorite Asian restaurant. "You will be named Brittany. Also, you will be my personal maid. Your duties will be to organize other maids to maintain my chambers, bring me my meals regardless of whether I am, and fulfill any other needs I require from you. You will also only answer to me, no one else," he commanded her. Brittany's face seemed to blossom with happiness from his new orders for her. Bowing her head, she answered, "I will do all you require and offer up my body, heart, and soul to you, Master." He continued to eat the remainder of the food while feeling a warm, fuzzy feeling inside of his chest. Being a guy, it was always nice to have a beautiful woman make such a declaration to him. He guessed it may be slightly different, considering that she was created by him instead of being a naturally born human woman. Getting up, feeling content from the delicious food, he told Brittany, "Inform Helena that she should be waiting for me in the throne room. Aside from your duties, I will message you if I have any need of you." He cupped her cheek with his hand, feeling her smooth skin and the faint warmth from her blushing. Placing his hand on the back of her neck, he pulled her towards him and gave her a kiss. The way she received the kiss felt like she was welcoming it and even began using her tongue. The two of them passionately kissed for several minutes before he pulled away and walked out of the room.